Hello everyone, welcome to Highways and Hilltops with Charlie and Jodi. Today we'll be covering episode 11, Redwood National Forest with a twist.
We are so glad that you're here today, and we hope that you're loving this walk down memory lane as we recap our 2024 summer road trip. We are a little over halfway through, and I know it took us several episodes to get here to this, what we call the halfway point, but the way home will go quite a bit faster. I think we're going to be able to cover that probably in the next couple of episodes and then wrap up this summer 2024 road trip. But don't worry, we have great things planned for you here on the Highways and Hilltops podcast moving forward, and we're taking another trip this summer, so we'll have some more fun things to talk about.
Yeah, a little teaser for 2025. We're going to Acadia.
We are.
We're actually going kind of the funny route to Acadia. We're going to Tennessee first and wrapping around, going through Washington and all the way up to Maine. So I think Bar Harbor, and then turning right around and coming back through Missouri. So it's going to be quite the little trip.
We are. We're going to hit cool things like the Ark Encounter and then the Smithsonian and Boston. And so you're going to want to stick around for that trip. If you don't follow us on social media, be sure that you hop over there. Our Instagram is Jodi Charlie Keith. That's Jodi, Jodi, Charlie, Charlie, Keith, Keith, all one word, no spaces, on Instagram. And then on Facebook, we are Highways and Hilltops. We'll probably pop in there with some Instagram lives or some Facebook stories, a few pictures as we go on our trip. And then at some point, we'll come back and recap that one too, so we can take you along with us. But if you want to kind of be in the moment while we're traveling this summer, hop on over to our social media so that you can follow it there until we get time to sit down and record a podcast about it.
Yeah, and one more thing about the trip this summer, we've changed rides.
We have.
This whole recap that we've done here for 2024 has been in the van, and now we're running in a Brinkley fifth wheel. So that'll be a big change. It'll be a big trip for Brinkley fifth wheel. Big change for us. So we purchased this fifth wheel, and on the way home, we stopped at an RV park, stayed over the night just to kind of check it out a little bit. And we also last weekend took it on a little road trip down to Eureka Springs, Arkansas, and put it a little bit more of a test. We always like to do that because you never know what could be wrong, or especially before we start that big trip. We're going to be gone for 22, 23 days, I believe it is. So we took it down to Eureka Springs. We went to the Passion Play, which is always cool. Or I should say the Great Passion Play.
Oh, yeah.
We went through the Holy Land tours, which was really cool. We stayed there a couple of nights, I believe it was, and the Brinkley was fantastic. So we're excited about it. There's a lot to learn. New setup, different, totally different deal. We love both. Both have its advantages, but anyway, we're now going into the Brinkley. And so we had an interesting little trip down there on our first trip. You want to tell them a little bit about our mapping and how I almost got us in trouble?
Well, so if you've been to Eureka Springs, Arkansas, and we have been there a couple of times, and it's been a while since we've been there. But what I do remember is the last time we went, we stayed in a cabin. We didn't take an RV, but we did have a 1-ton dually back then. And we got on this road trying to go to the downtown area to eat that I didn't think we were going to be able to get through in just a dually, not even pulling any kind of trailer. So I had a little bit of anxiety about mapping us to the Passion Play. Now, in the back of my mind, I did realize that if they have RV spots, and they do, that there has to be an RV safe route to get there. But whenever I pulled the map up, both of the highways that took us into Eureka Springs from Oklahoma looked pretty curvy, and I just wasn't sure which one was the right one. So we did use our RV Life app and ended up taking the route that it showed us. But we had a tiny hiccup, and it wasn't the app's fault, but it is something that you guys might want to keep in mind. So whenever you load your RV Life app, you can go in there and pick your rig, and it'll populate the factory size for you. And so it did that for our Brinkley, which is somewhere around like 13.3, right?
Right.
Okay. So when we got into Eureka Springs and we made it through the curviness of the highway just fine, it took us through the middle of town, and then it wanted to turn us down Main Street. We both took pause at that. We kind of looked at each other and we're like, is this really the right way to go? But we trusted the map. And as we started down through there, it started becoming fairly narrow. It's very hilly in Eureka Springs. We kind of came around this bend, and there was a bridge up ahead. So I don't remember who saw it first. Maybe you saw it first. I saw it. I was like, I don't think we can fit under that. So Charlie pulled over. Well, come to find out, this bridge, we think it used to be 1310.
Well, if you ever see a bridge number and you see a line drawn through it, it's because they've changed something. So a couple of tips. One is the app is great. It really does a good job.
It
Two
does.
is it's not going to be 100% accurate.
No.
It's only as accurate as the stuff that's loaded into it, to their GPS and what have you. The bridge is currently 13.1. It was 13.10. Well, with our rig at 13.3, it probably, technically, before would have made it. But I think for us, we've always decided that that's just too close. So the good news is the app is great, but just go in there and when it loads, it's going to find your model number, which is really handy. It downloads everything. And there's so many things this app can do, by the way, other than just give you height and width and weight and what have you. But what we decided to do, we went in there and just made a manual adjustment and raised the height. Another little tip is when you are pulling those fifth wheels, be looking down the road. And so we got pretty lucky. We were watching down the road. We seen that something just didn't seem quite right, and we pulled off at a spot where we could turn around. Now, it did take some doing to get it turned around. We just barely got it turned around, which is a little bit unsettling. And then we got out, and you were blocking traffic for me, and some cops came.
And the police were blocking
And the cops came, and then they made it all official, right? So when the cops showed up, they just started blocking streets, and it was a little embarrassing. But the good news or I should say not the good news, but the tip is just stay real calm, slow down. If you ever get in a bind pulling one of these big rigs, just stop.
Yes.
And let the traffic do what it's going to do. Carry you some cones. The cops were great. They blocked traffic. You got out and you flagged me. Mm-hmm. And I basically had to get over against one side and just make a good hard turn there. Another little tip is be very careful with the cab of your truck and the front of your fifth wheel. It gets smaller there quickly. Mm-hmm. It gets tight quick. And so what we did, we pulled around as far as we could. We backed up and we got a little bit more. We pulled around again. And we were able to make a 360 right there in the middle of the road and get out of there. But it was a little unsettling. But it's just a few tips, something to think about. The app is great. I'm going to add a little height there, like we said, manually. Just make things easier. And if you're getting a funny feeling, we talked about this once before about naming streets and pulling off of places. If you feel like you're in a bind, stop. Mm-hmm. You can always stop. This has happened before, if you think about it. It even happened with the van. We pulled off into a place to fuel up, and the driveway going up into the pumps was like at a really steep angle. Mm-hmm. If you remember, I drug the plumbing back there that time. We had to fix it with, previous episode, had to fix it with the coat hanger and all this other
Colorado.
stuff. So it's all just part of RVing, but I guess my tip, and most people are going to know this, but it's just a good reminder. The app's great. Don't completely trust it. And slow down and stop if you have to be. If you get in a bind, stop and get some help. It's amazing where you can put these things. You just need a little help sometimes.
Yeah, and I have to say that was some amazing driving by you to get us out of that tight space. Even the cops were applauding you for being able to get it turned around right there. But what the issue is that bridge is registered as 1310. And here's the thing, maybe it's 1310, but it's at this weird drop-off area where it's very hard to gauge how tall it is anyway. And the cop was saying, it's 13.1. Well, you can see that there used to be a 0 up there. So I know why the app says that the bridge is 13.10, but it looks like someone spray painted over it. At least in the dark, that's what it looks like, the little 0. So we didn't like the way it looked. He was saying we weren't going to fit. I mean, he was like, I can promise you're not going to fit under the bridge with that RV. And we were like, okay, well, we just need to get it turned around then. They were really great to help us get out of that pinch. But yeah, just a word to the wise. If you visit Eureka Springs, Arkansas, just never drive down Main Street with an RV.
Yeah, you can tell. Actually, I think that there's whatever the street was that all the streets connect to, the side streets is where we got in trouble, right? Mm-hmm. And you can kind of tell. The problem, too, is it's steep. And so that bridge may have been taller than we think.
It may have been.
But like you said, the approach in there was like a 45 degree in and a 45 degree out.
Yeah.
Got to think you're long now. So now when you're front comes up, your back goes down, and vice versa.
Right.
Later, we got out and went to a gas station, and it was 14 feet, and we had all kinds of room.
We did.
So what made it look funny to us was more the angle than anything. And that is really something you've got to watch. It's kind of like being a Corvette owner or something. You really got to watch for those steep spots.
Yeah, for sure.
I will say one thing about the Brinkley I'm really excited about is the 4 hydraulic legs that come down that self-level the trailer. Those are way closer to the wheels instead of the corners than the other rigs used to be. I think our first fifth wheel, they were out on the ends on the corners, and those things drug everywhere. And so it really does matter. If you remember when we bought the other rig, the first thing we had to do is raise those jacks up.
You're right, we did.
So it's a lot about the angle. So don't just go on, this is 14 foot and I'm 13.3, anything should happen. Just be cautious.
Yeah, that was just a whole weird situation. So anyway, we just wanted to pass that along to you. If you're using an RV mapping app, you might want to go in there and just make some adjustments. We know now that we're pretty comfortable with 14 feet. I mean, but that bridge at that angle, I don't even know if 14 would have made me feel good. Just because of the way we were gonna be elevated. When you feel yourself
approaching to something that seems odd, stop and question it because something's not right.
Yeah.
I will say this though, getting out of the van and getting into the fifth wheel, that was one wonderful weekend. We had our smokers out and our lawn chairs. We had so much room. It was so nice. It's really, really worth the trouble. It pulled great. And it slept great. And I can say to this day, there's been nothing go wrong with the Brinkley. So knock on wood, but it's been fantastic.
Yeah, we have really loved it so far. And I think that people call that the shakedown trip. So your first trip out to see if everything works right, like your refrigerator and your shower and your slides and all the things. But we had a great time. And we did get Starlink for our Brinkley. And Starlink is fantastic.
Yeah, we're not sponsored by Brinkley. I wish
or
we
Starlink.
were. Or Starlink. Love this trailer. I mean, it's this fifth wheel is fantastic. The first one we had, I will not say the name of it, but there was a lot of issues. I think the first 2 or 3 months, that's all I did was drove back and forth to the dealership. This one's just been fantastic. The Starlink, we streamed television, we worked, we done everything on it. It's fantastic. And you know, the kind of the nice thing is that equipment is a lot cheaper than it used to be.
Yeah, the equipment has come down. Now, the Roam plan is still a bit pricey, but the cool thing about it is with the Roam plan for your RV, you can go into your Starlink app and pause that. So, like, we're going to leave for a month on our road trip, and we'll pay a price to have that Starlink for that month. But whenever we get back, we can pause it for the next 3 or 4 months if we don't go anywhere.
Yeah, and there was a more economical plan. There was a $50 a month plan that had some limits to it. With the work we do, of course, we didn't go that way. And then, of course, our plan is $165 a month, and it's completely unlimited. So far, I've had no issue with speeds. We got a kid on a PlayStation. We're working on our laptops. We're streaming television. It works fantastic. So we also kind of got creative, and we said, okay, how are we going to set this thing up? And if you remember, the old Starlink had the motorized head and all that stuff. Nowadays, they don't do that. I bought a tripod, and I put some sandbags on it. I point it to the southeast and boom, we're ready to go. It takes about 15 minutes to boot, but after that, it's really fantastic. So I would say thumbs up on the Brinkley, thumbs up on the Starlink, and I'm really excited about this summer's trip. I think we're going to have a great time in it.
Yeah, and Starlink or Brinkley, if you are looking for someone to sponsor, we'll take that sponsorship.
Absolutely.
So we are going to be doing a whole episode over the Great Passion Play because there is so much to tell you guys about that trip and the people that we met and the things that we experienced there. It is awesome. If you've never been, it is Passion Play season. So you might look that up online, Eureka Springs, Arkansas, the Great Passion Play. Definitely worth it. We'll be doing an episode coming up on that, but we just wanted to kind of give you a flyover today and talk about the bridge encounter and the RV app. We assume everybody's gearing up to hit the road soon, and if you've got your RV mapping app, you might want to just jump in there and make a couple of manual adjustments to your height.
Yeah, if you've seen the Great Passion Play when you were a kid like I did, it is way different now. So don't feel like you're going to be disappointed and not see everything. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it was great.
And we should just mention our neighbor. We met the coolest guy. His name is Chad E. Van Brunt. He was doing this art he was in the RV park there with us. And it's not really an RV park. There's kind of limited spaces. But anyway, if you decide you're going to go, I think they can accommodate quite a few. But his name's Chad E. Van Brunt. This guy does carvings on rocks. Mm-hmm. He's a glass blower. He's also currently the Philip in the Passion Play, which was really cool to meet this guy.
It was.
Wonderful guy. He's on Facebook. He does all kinds of art. Really cool guy. He actually has a booth in the marketplace there at the Holy Land Tour. Mm-hmm. And he does wood carvings. He does rock carvings. Really, really cool guy. When you walk up to the Holy Land, it's right behind the, what's the replica of the East Wall in Israel. So anyway, just a quick shout out to Chad. He was a cool guy. He really took care of us while we were there and kind of gave us a first class treatment. So
yes, he did. He was awesome. And go check him out on Facebook, Chad E. Van Brunt. That's VanBrunt. He is an awesome artist and just a really cool guy. So go check him out. Look at his work. I think he's working on a website so he can start selling some things online soon. But man, he is an amazing artist. And like Charlie mentioned, also a good actor.
Absolutely. So that takes us back to our trip. We're in Redwood National Forest.
One more thing before we jump into the Redwood National Forest. In case you were wondering what Traveling Scout thought about all that ruckus in Eureka Springs, Charlie thought I was holding him, but I left him in the truck. And so when I got back in, he was like, "Where's the dog?" And we turned around. He just went to bed.
Yeah.
He got in his bed that was laying in the back seat. I guess those blue flashing lights and the cops being there just stressed him out. So he just went to bed. So I thought all you Traveling Scout fans would enjoy that. And if you heard a tiny sneeze a while ago, that was totally him sneezing in the background of our podcast. Okay, so we are going to jump right into the Redwood National Forest. If you recall, in episode 10, we had made it all the way to Klamath, California and the Golden Bear RV Park. And the Golden Bear RV Park was pretty nice. I mean, it was right on the Klamath River. There was an algae alert, so it's not like we really got to enjoy the river, but it's pretty to look at, and it's kind of right there on that bank. It's fairly flat and a whole lot of parking spots. They can accommodate quite a few people. They're right outside the National Forest, so this is a good one. It was clean. The bathrooms were pretty nice.
Yeah, Golden Bear is a good one. Location, right?
Yes.
It's hard to not love these parks that are in these beautiful areas.
Yes, that's
true.
And
they tend to be a little bit less, fancy and resort style. But again, they have the locations, so that's what you're really looking for.
Yeah, for sure it did have location. I would recommend the Golden Bear RV Park, and I put a link to it in the show notes for you. So if you're headed to the Redwoods and you're looking for a place to stay, the office people were really great. So that would be a good one. And I put that link out there so you can go check it out on your own.
So we cut out of the park. We finally get to our next hike, and we're hiking the Trillium Falls Trail.
Yes, it was a 21-minute drive from the Golden Bear RV Park over to the Elk Meadow area of the Redwood National Forest. So this is where we chose to go, and yes, it was my idea because y'all know how I am wildlife crazy. So I was hoping that we would see some elk in a place called Elk Meadow, but we did not. We so far had pretty much lost out on any wildlife on this trip except for a whole bunch of deer that we saw in Washington.
Yeah, that's kind of how it goes, right? It was warm on this trip too.
It was.
So when it's that warm, you can pretty much count on all the things being bedded down. Now, we could have probably hung out till the evening and we might have had a chance.
This is true.
When we finally got here and got to hiking, it was a pretty hot day.
It was. We kind of slept in that day. We got up and around. We got out to Elk Meadow about 11 a.m. And when we started off on our hike, it was around 70 degrees. So perfect hiking weather. But what we didn't know about this day, and remember, we've been in the mountains for a couple of weeks now, it was going to heat up, like heat on up today. So we don't know that when we take off on this hike and it's 70 degrees at 11 a.m. But yeah.
Well, in all fairness, we're about, 18, 19 days into this trip.
Yeah, that's true.
And we've done a lot of great hiking. We just kind of get a little tired. You're not starting as early as you normally would to see the the wildlife and what have you, but it was still a beautiful place. What you'll find is in these trips, you'll need to take those days where you just hang out. You'll need to take those days where you just go eat and maybe play in the water or something like that. And we're kind of diehards when it comes to hiking, or we think we are. So we really create an itinerary where we would go at it pretty hard. And so at about this point, we're getting pretty tired. But when we do finally get here and we see the trees, we get re-energized.
Yeah, that's for sure. So we decided to do the Trillium Falls hike. And once you get to the Elk Meadow parking lot, there's a placard and it tells you all the different areas of Redwood National Forest. And there's a lot of them, guys. So, I mean, we probably could have hung out here for well over a week if you wanted to do lots of hiking and lots of walking and see lots of things. But we chose to go on the Trillium Falls hike. It was a hike to a waterfall that was about a half mile to the falls. It was 200 feet of elevation gain to get up to the falls. It didn't seem that bad going up there because you're winding through these giant trees and just kind of walking slow and going down this dirt path. It is a pretty steady climb up to the falls, but the trees are just magnificent.
Well, we do what we always do. So this is a half a mile hike. It's moderate, at least classified as moderate. And then you get in there and you start seeing this stuff and you get excited.
Yeah.
And you end up going a lot farther than you would normally go. So we decided that we're going to go to the half mile up to the falls. Once we get up to the falls, you remember what you said when we got up there?
Okay, we've mentioned how poor my mapping skills are, y'all. So when I looked at the map, I took a picture of it on my phone. And when I pulled it up and zoomed it in, I was like, well, we should just continue this loop because how far do you think we walked? Like a mile? And the whole trail's like 2.5 miles, a little over 2.5. So it won't be that much farther.
This is where I usually come in and say, okay, look, this is what happens every time. Everybody gets excited. It's beautiful to see. These trees are amazing. And we get excited, right?
Yes.
So it was pretty hot. It was a moderate trail with, a lot of gain, 200 foot of elevation gain just to the falls. And so what happens is we go in here and it's supposed to be a half a mile. We take some other trails and we turn it into what I really would have thought was a 3 or 4 or 5 mile trip. I'm not going to lie. I was ready to be done at this point. But again, this is just what happens, right? This is why we always talk about taking your water and all these kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Be prepared. If I remember right, we said in the parking lot, this is a half mile trip. We don't need our water. We don't need our snacks. We don't need nothing. Let's just go up there and look at these falls and we'll come right back out and leave.
That's what we did.
Well, 3 miles later, I'm dying for my water and I'm saying, that's it. That's enough. But I guess my point is this is my after school special message. Just prepare like you're going to go hike. Have no idea what you're going to see. It's going to be beautiful. You're going to get excited and you're going to do more than you really think you're going to do.
Yes, we were just going to go on a short hike and we didn't take any of our stuff. None of it. So when we went past the falls, I thought we would have to go up for just a few more steps and then it would start back down. But here was the problem. It just kept going up and up and up and up and up. And then we were so far up, we didn't want to turn around and go back because it seemed like at that point we were going to walk even farther if we turned around and tried to go back.
Yeah, it was the right choice. But I will say this, when we're walking on this hike, I clear one full mountain range. And what I mean by that is I can tell I've went up a ridge line, over a mountain and back down a ridge line, and I'm starting on another ridge line. So I knew this was going to be a lot farther. But again, if we just had prepared, we wouldn't have cared, right?
That's true. Also, Scout and Weston were in the van. Weston was asleep, and I cracked the windows because there was a little bit of a breeze, and it was only 70 degrees when we left. So I was like, surely they'll be fine. And Weston had keys in my purse. But then I got worried, like, what if he doesn't wake up? Like, what if he's just laying down there in a deep, sweaty sleep?
Well, here's the wonderful thing about any of these mountains. Even though it was hot for us while we were hiking, there's just something about that breeze up there and taking a nap. You can take a nap like you've never taken a nap, Yeah. And you're hiking and you're hungry and you're eating good. And I guarantee you on a long trip like this, everybody's going to get that point where they got to have that nap. And so Weston he was smart. He was taking advantage of it. It was a little bit of a warm hike and he just waiting on the next one.
And he was having a little bit of a warm sleep down there.
Yeah, probably a little bit of that.
Back. So now that we're, home and I was looking up facts about this Trillium Falls hike, here's what the national park says about it. It's moderately challenging. I agree with that. Maybe moderately challenging plus if you decide to go past the bridge.
Well, it's the trail itself.
Yes.
Right? So there's trails that are really hard packed and easy to get on. There's trails that are really soft and they're ferny, and it just, they're just different. Every hike is just so different, seems like. Here's the great thing about this hike, if you ask me. The trees are just unreal.
Oh, they're amazing.
And the ferns and stuff like that. And so, we were reading about the facts of these trees and stuff, and we were saying, man, these trees are really big. I wonder how high these trees are. Well, here's the actual facts. So they're giant coastal redwoods. They're the tallest trees on Earth.
Yeah, that's awesome.
How's that for a fact for you? Heights can exceed 350 feet.
Yeah, and we thought those trees in Oregon were big.
Yeah, this is crazy. They live over 2,000 years. The trunks can grow up to 20 feet in diameter.
That's just crazy.
This is something I thought was really cool that I didn't realize when we were hiking. Because you see where lightning has struck trees and there's been fires in here. Mm-hmm. And you think, well, these trees are 2,000 years old. Why haven't any of these burnt at some point, right? Because when you go through the Yellowstones and places like that, you see big areas just burn up. Mm-hmm. Well, here's the cool fact about these giant coastal redwoods. They have a really thick, fibrous bark that protects them from fire, insects, and rot.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So they can actually come through and burn the underbrush and stuff off the ground, burn the bark on the tree, and the fire moves on out, and this tree can recover from that. It's amazing.
Yeah, so when you hear about the wildfires in California, when they're in these coastal redwood areas, lots of these coastal redwoods can survive some of that wildfire activity.
Yeah, and another thing too is like the roots. We talked about the roots, and I think there's some pictures of me up in a tree standing up underneath them. I've mentioned this before on other podcasts, but when erosion comes down a hill and floods and things like come down a hill, it kind of washes up under a tree and you can see kind of the taproot and the roots of these things.
Yep.
A lot of these trees, the roots are exposed and you can walk under the tree. And why that is, and why they're not dead, I guess, is they actually can draw moisture from the fog.
That's insane.
And one picture that is me standing in one that's got a big split on it. That's a live tree. Mm-hmm. I mean, you look up in it, it's still super high, it's still green, and I'm standing inside of it. It's like a house. Tree's still making it just fine. So
it's like a cave, like you're inside a cave. And it's pretty cool how their roots spread out horizontally and they can share nutrients and water with other trees in the forest. So if one of them is kind of nutrient deficient, a healthier tree can help that. So they're pretty wild. I mean, I know sometimes we just have to sit here and reflect on the depth of the Creator and all of the things that have been put into place in this earth that just aren't explainable any other way. And this is definitely God's hand, the way these trees network together and survive and grow to be giants and all of those things.
Well, if you think about it, we're in 2025. If those trees can live to 2000, they're ancient. Mm-hmm. They're just as ancient as the Bible stories we read about, right? So
yeah, I did read that some of them date back to the Roman Empire days. So
so you're looking at Christ in AD 30. So we're looking at 2,000 years. These trees could have been there, right? Or they were there. I mean, if you look at the dates.
Yeah, that's
wild. If you want to know what these trees look like, Star Wars: Return of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. Go watch that film if you can't make it up here. You'll see these trees.
Yeah, that's a good fun fact. Star Wars was filmed in portions of the Redwood National Forest. And it's funny because I don't think we knew that, but when we were standing there, you said that. Yeah. And then later we looked it up and we were like, oh my gosh.
Had to be. When you're standing there and you're looking at it, and I'm not a huge Star Wars fan or anything, but I have seen it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, this looks like that scene where what were they called? The little bears, Ewoks or something?
I think so.
Yeah, something like that. But anyway, heck, where this picture's at, where I'm standing in the street, could have been one of the places where they done their filming or whatever. But really cool.
We've got great pictures in there with us so that you can kind of gauge the height of these trees. There's actually a couple. One of Charlie standing between two big trees and one of me too. His is a little farther away and you can he looks so tiny. He looks like he's in that movie, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Yeah. If you remember that show, because he's not even making a dent on the height of this tree. And then if you scroll through a few more, you'll actually see him standing in that tree he was talking about just a few minutes ago, where it's all hollowed out in the bottom. It is pretty crazy.
You know where these trees, where they fall in there for whatever reason, some of them fall. Just after we go into that tree there where you see me standing in that tree, there's some of them that have fallen, and I think there's a picture or two of those. But it's just crazy to see a tree that's, 300 feet plus laying on its side. The trunk is 20 foot in diameter and how far it reaches. We would go up one side of a trail and go way up into the mountains and be coming back down and realize we're standing on the other end of that tree.
Yeah, that was pretty insane. I will say that Trillium Falls is, don't get me wrong, it's pretty, but from the waterfalls that we've just come from, this one was like, oh, is that it? But the ferns and the trees along this path make this hike so worth it, even though we were sweating and thirsting so badly by the time we got back down to the parking area.
Trillium Falls is pretty, but it's a great place to wash your face when you don't bring your water on a 5-mile hike. That's what it was for us.
Yes, that's true. So it's a great hike overall through the old growth giant redwoods. There's also huge fir trees in there, ferns, maples, and then the Trillium Falls is named for the trillium flower. That wrapped up our day at Elk Meadow. We thought we were going to be there for, I don't know, an hour and a half, and it turned into like 3 or about 3, I think.
Yeah, we'll definitely be back here. This is all about the trees. To your point,
yes,
beautiful. I have no problem coming back here and hitting them all. It's just wonderful.
Also, you might be wondering, well, how come they didn't just call Weston and tell him to wake up and make sure he wasn't too hot in the van? And that's because we didn't have any cell phone service.
Yeah, you can forget that.
We were back in a national forest.
When you have a canopy that size over your head, you can forget the cell service.
Yes. We were hot. We decided, you know what? We think the weather's getting too hot for hiking, at least for us. We got to save that for places like Montana in July, not California in July. And we were also hungry by the time we got back to the van because we didn't take snacks or water. So we found ourselves in Trinidad, California.
So we head down to Trinidad, California. One of the first things we stop at is that Trinidad Pier and the harbor. It is a really cool place. I remember the long pier. We get in there, we get parked, we walk out on into this pier. We see all the cool fishing fleets and all that kind of stuff. Definitely worth a stop and a look. There was a restaurant there on the Trinidad Pier that you could eat at, and it looked pretty good. It was just very, very busy for the time of day we were there.
It was.
But we did walk around the pier. We walked all around this ocean side. We could see all the pretty water and stuff, and it was gorgeous.
Oh, it's beautiful. And remember those great big like rock islands that were on each side of the pier? That's just wild. And how those trees and the moss and everything just grows right on top of those rocks is so weird.
Yeah, when we got out on the end of that pier, there's people fishing and stuff like that. We thought about stopping and fishing a little bit, but we ended up getting caught up into looking at the boats. And there's something cool about that. It reminds you of the places you see like in San Francisco with all the boats and things like that out there. Really, really pretty.
Yeah, and the water was really clear. And a nice little bonus, there were sea stars. So whenever you walk out on this pier, there's a restaurant there. It's called Seascapes. And we were going to try to eat there, but like Charlie said, it was really busy. I think the wait was a long time, like an hour.
Yeah, I mean, they have all the great seafood, right? So everybody's lined up to eat it. So
yeah, and we were much too hungry to wait that out. But we did decide to walk out on the pier, and I'm so glad we did because there were sea stars stuck all over this rock. And I tried to take pictures the best I could, guys, with my cell phone. I've got one that's really, really zoomed in. And if you'll look just below him, you can see another one. And you can kind of see several of them stuck to that very same rock. So it was really fun to get to just stop and watch those things out in the water. And it was a neat day. There was also a brown pelican. He was taking a break from fishing. He was sitting out on the end of the pier, fluffing up his feathers. I took a short video of him. The Trinidad Pier, a cool place to go. Definitely, if you find yourself in that area of Trinidad, California, look up Seascapes. And even if you just go walk out on the pier, it's a cool place to be.
So we finish up at the pier, we jump back in the van, and we head down to the Avenue of the Giants. This is really cool to see as well.
Yes, it is. I think by the time we got to the Avenue of the Giants, we were roughly an hour and a half from the Golden Bear RV park where we had left that morning. So we had been driving south all that time. And by the time we got down here, I think we were both kind of thinking, are we done with hiking?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting into California deep here. It's getting warm. It's more about swimming than hiking. So we said, well, what are we going to do next? So yeah, we went to brainstorming and we came up with an idea.
We did. I got to looking on Google Maps and trying to figure out how far we could go. By the way, we haven't told y'all this yet, but it is the 4th of July, getting around 5 o'clock or so. And so I'm trying to think, what can we do that would actually be fun on the 4th of July? So I realized that we can get to San Francisco by dark.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, we could go watch fireworks at the Golden Gate Bridge. That
Who
sounds
doesn't
like
want to do that, right?
that sounds fun. And so Charlie's like, yes, let's do that. So remember, we told you we're sometimes spontaneous and do crazy things. And we've got this van, right? So we didn't really have to worry necessarily about an RV park because we could have slept at a Walmart or something if we wanted to. So we just decided to take a big detour, and that's what the twist is here. And we headed towards San Francisco.
Yeah, I really hope we don't regret this, selling the van and buying the fifth wheel thing, because we are very spontaneous at times.
We do like to do that. We did drive through Avenue of the Giants. Avenue of the Giants was awesome. The best part was it was already on our way to San Francisco. So we got to enjoy Avenue of the Giants. I do kind of feel like we were a little bit like the Griswolds looking at the Grand Canyon in the Vacation movie when they're like, don't you want to see the Grand Canyon? And he puts his arms around them and he's like, his head nods 3 times and then they jump back in the car. That's kind of how I felt about our Avenue of the Giants. But it's mostly a drive anyway. We stopped one time to let Scout get out to use the bathroom, and I got a picture of Weston and Scout together at Avenue of the Giants. So you can go look at that one. Neither of them like to take pictures, so I made them take one together. That's how it works.
Wasn't that bad of the trip. I mean, we're getting there about, 8:30, 9 o'clock?
We were.
And we run down there and find our parking space just a little ways from the Golden Gate Bridge. And so we're excited. That's kind of how we do things. And we could see the big arch of the Golden Gate Bridge from our parking area. So it was, we're all getting excited now. We're getting our second wind.
Yes. And so when we first see the Golden Gate Bridge, we're like, ooh, there it is. And then it goes out of sight. We drive just a little ways down. We start seeing it again, and there's this fog, this mysterious fog that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, so in the pictures, you can see the Golden Gate Bridge, which is really cool to see regardless. But something happens here between about 9 o'clock at night and the beginning of this fireworks show. And the best I can remember we talked about earlier in the pictures of that wall of fog and how it's not like any fog you've ever seen. This ocean fog, or what was the term we used for
Marine
that?
layer.
Marine layer fog is like a wall.
It's just crazy.
So somewhere around about 9 o'clock, we're getting out of the van. We decided we're going to run down to the bridge. We're going to see this. So the way it works is the bridge is on the left, and there's a huge beach out to the right.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is kind of in a bay, of course. And then over to your right, there's barges and things like that. So there's these huge fireworks shows, by the way. This is probably one of the biggest fireworks shows you could go see, I would imagine. And so we run down to the beach. We're excited. Right about the time we turn the corner to run out on the beach, there's this wall
of fog.
And you take that in darkness too. And I literally could not see my hand 3 inches in front of my face.
It was crazy. And it's not like we were walking down there alone. We were in a huge crowd of people. We had to park and walk, at least a half mile, right? To get down there to that beach.
Oh, absolutely.
And we were in this huge crowd of people we assumed knew what they were doing, right? We knew we didn't know what we were doing.
There's a lot. There's hundreds.
It's a big crowd.
Probably, somewhere in that 1,000 mark of people on this beach.
Yeah.
And you can hear them. So the fog doesn't mess up your hearing at all, right? So you can tell that you're in the middle of a lot of people.
Yes.
You cannot see your hand in front of your face. You can't see your kids standing right next to you, which is a little bit weird, but you can talk to them and you can check on them, make sure they're still there. And then all of a sudden, it's getting pretty close.
Yeah, so I guess I was just hopeful because at this point, what were we going to do? We had driven 3.5 hours to stand under the Golden Gate Bridge and watch fireworks.
You can't see the Golden Gate Bridge. You can't see the lights of the Golden Gate Bridge. You can't see anything. But here's the cool thing. We could see nothing. You couldn't even see the flash of the fireworks.
Yeah, not even
That's
the flash.
how dark it was. But for a fireworks show that I never got to see, this was the coolest thing I ever seen because it sounds like World War III's going on. And you know what was funny? We still had a great time.
We did. It was the greatest. We stood out there amongst this crowd of people and it's just silent. And we're all waiting because it's dark, and we're like, all right, it's going to start any minute now. And some people pointed us in what we assumed was the right direction because somebody in the crowd knew that they were actually shooting them off down at Fisherman's Wharf. Well, at this point, we don't even know what that is or where that is. We just knew that we read you could stand under the Golden Gate Bridge and watch fireworks. So we're standing there and then we hear boom. And it's just silent. And we see nothing, not even a flicker. And then everybody just stands there. And then we hear boom. After the second boom, somebody goes, yeah. And everybody starts cheering. And then it just stops. And we all turn and start walking back to our cars at the same time.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. The good news is it was still a lot of fun. We were doing it together. We also got to, I think the next morning, wasn't it? We got to drive the Golden Gate Bridge and go see it, go back down to the beach. And we may not have got to see the fireworks show. We did get to see the Golden Gate Bridge. We did get to see the ocean. We did get to walk on the beach. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we stayed at a place called Marin RV Park there in San Francisco. Guys, it's a big old parking lot. If you need a place to stay in San Francisco, though, this is a pretty good place. The bathrooms were nice. I know I always say that, but listen, when you're in a van, the bathrooms are important. The cleanliness of the bathrooms are important. So we felt pretty safe there. And there's a picture of Traveling Scout and I out taking his walk the next morning. There was an abandoned railroad track behind the RV park, and you can get up there and walk up and down that area. You can also still see mountains in the background. So the scenery, I mean, it's city scenery and basically a flat parking area, but it's nice. And if you're going to stay in San Francisco for an extended period of time, they have a laundry drop-off service that'll actually come to your RV and pick up your dirty laundry, do your laundry, and then bring it back.
Yeah, I don't know how many RVs are in this place, but it was a bunch. There was a lot of people there. So this fireworks show is a big deal. So if you're going to do this right, you'd be down there several hours before this thing goes off. You probably would go down to Fisherman's Wharf.
Yes,
and you'd probably sit in one of those restaurants or something like that. But we're spontaneous. We loved it. So
now we know. And we have a fun story to tell. We listened to fireworks under the Golden Gate Bridge.
If that would have disappointed you to take that trip that we took, then you probably should plan it a little bit better than we did.
That's true. That's true. The next day, Weston wanted to go back into town because he just wanted to go thrifting at Mission and Asbury Street in San Francisco. And here's what I can tell you about San Francisco. All of those movies that you saw, and you'd see like the San Francisco and you'd see the street and it would look so steep. It's because it really is that steep, y'all.
It's every bit as steep. So I talked about how great this van did, and I really feel like those little Ram ProMaster vans are awesome. I see no reason to give 2 and 3 times the price, to have a different rig. I have no problems with this van. But I will say on these streets, you need to watch what you're doing. It really is kind of hard on you to get up and down these inclines.
Yeah, the inclines were crazy. And I felt bad because Weston had pretty much been in the back of the van this whole trip. And he wanted to go to San Francisco and he's all about the city life. And so I let him sit up front and I put up a lawn chair in the back part because I wanted to be able to see out the windshield while we were driving as well. The lawn chairs we have, they're actually rockers. So they kind of rock back and they set you up straight, but they rock back, and they're good to sit in for long periods of time. They are not good for trying to get a van up a steep hill in San Francisco because I fell backward. Everything up in the cubby above my head was falling on me like paper towels and wipes and all the stuff. I had my foot hooked under Weston's armrest. Scout was freaking out because he was trying to figure out what was going on. So he was barking. I was falling. I could not get that rocker lawn chair to sit back up for love nor money because we were basically pointed so straight up trying to get up that hill that everything was just falling on me and I was stuck and I was laughing and it pretty much probably would have won that funniest home videos thing if we would have had it on video.
Yeah, this is another one of those places you want to kind of watch about dragging your plumbing. Even in that short van, we really had to be careful. And it was weird because we were driving down a flat road and it said turn right here. When I turned right, I was looking at what looked like a wall. It was just a 45-degree angle straight up and down. And it didn't just go up one, it went up one and then it went up another one, then it went up another one. So once your feet came up in the air, I seen it in the rearview mirror. You were on your own until I could get off that hill. So.
It was quite comical. I mean, if y'all have that video playing in your head of what I just described, it was every bit that funny. I think all Charlie could probably see in the rearview mirror just was my feet in the air. And I was just lodged between the bench bed in the back of the van. Thank goodness that my lawn chair lodged against that. Otherwise, it would have flipped me over backward. But fun times, fun times. I will tell you that Mission and Asbury.
Yeah, Weston enjoyed it. There's lots of shopping.
Yeah.
There's a lot of vintage stuff. I seen something that I never thought I would see in my life, but the old Carhartt coats we've wore our whole life, that are probably $40 or $50 coats, they were selling for like $150 with holes in them. This whole thing is about vintage. There was a lot of head shops. There was a lot of marijuana smoke in the air. Just be forewarned. It's not really kind of our cup of tea, but it is cool to see.
It was cool to see. And then we hopped in the van and made our way down to Fisherman's Wharf. Fisherman's Wharf was packed. Like, there was zero parking down there. So here's what we know now that we wish we would have known about Fisherman's Wharf. We probably should have got an extra day at the RV park and left the van and Ubered to town.
Yeah, that would have been great. Fisherman's Wharf be something to see. The sailboats and all that kind of stuff. Really, really pretty. Just know it's going to be congested. And I think your Uber idea is the best one.
Yeah, parking is a premium down there. And especially we were in a van.
I think reservations too. If you're going to eat at Fisherman's Wharf, you better have some reservations.
Yeah, I think so. There was it looked like a pirate ship. I snagged a picture of it as we drove by, but all of these pictures I got were from the van as we drove through there. I think we were all a little sad that we couldn't find a place to park. It was also kind of hot to leave Scout in the van. So we just did a drive-by through Fisherman's Wharf. If we find ourselves back in San Francisco, this is a place where we would go spend a little time. Also, the cruise ships are down there. Obviously, there's palm trees and all of those great things as well.
You know what the Fisherman's Wharf sign reminds me of?
What's that?
Is the Caddyshack Yacht Club.
Oh.
Is that what it looks like to you?
When
I seen that's the first thing I thought of is, here's the yacht club.
Yeah, you're right. It does. So Fisherman's Wharf, 2 thumbs up. If you're going to go to San Francisco, be sure to think about that. We did see some of those unmanned taxis while we were in San Francisco. I think it's the first time I had seen them. Had you seen them before that?
No, that was the first time.
Yeah, so I don't know how y'all feel about that. I don't know if I want to ride in one. And I also don't know what they cost, but they are available there. They were running those hills right beside us.
Yeah, I'm not sold yet. I'll just keep Ubering.
It's a little weird, but they're available. Okay, so that wraps up our time in San Francisco. Also, on our way there from Trinidad, we stopped at a rest area out on the highway, and there was an old payphone there, and it still worked. So if you're kind of in that 23 to 27-year-old group that Spotify tells me is listening to this podcast, and shout out to you guys, and you don't really remember payphones that well, you should get out on the photo gallery and go look for that.
Yeah, you know which ones those are because you'll need a quarter.
Yeah, you'll need a quarter to call someone who cares. Also, we did drive by some really pretty vineyards along the way, and I did get a picture of that. Some sailboats in San Francisco Bay as well. And then I took a really cool picture of the C&H sugar factory because, I mean, they make one of the things I love most in this world. Sugar. So I just thought it was a cool picture when we drove by the factory there in San Francisco. Okay, if you're following along in the photo gallery, then the next thing you're going to see are the mountain views on our drive from San Francisco to Reno. Again, you know, I talked about how the landscape changed when we went from Washington to Oregon to California. And then it's amazing how the landscape changes again from San Francisco to Reno.
Yeah, for the beach lovers, don't kill me, but I'm back in the mountains and I'm happy.
He's happy. We were headed to the Reno Boomtown KO8 journey for the night.
This Boomtown KO8 was fantastic. All concrete pads, lots to do. The casino's right there. I mean, this thing is really, really nice.
Yeah, it is. It's nice. We hopped up the next day and headed on to Utah, which will be our next podcast.
You know, there at the Boomtown KO8, you remember seeing the mining stuff? You seen where the railroad come through the mountains and on the edges of the bluffs, and then there were some old mining cars and stuff down there. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, you're right. I had forgotten about that.
Well, that's going to wrap up episode 11. We hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane.
Yeah, so be sure to join us next week as we drive from Reno, Nevada to Salt Lake City, Utah, and then on to Arches and Canyonlands National Parks. before we hit the road to Colorado. I told you this last piece of our journey was going to go fast in the podcast world, so we're going to cover all of that ground in our next episode. You're going to want to be sure and stay tuned for those. Remember, if you're loving our podcast, please share it with your friends. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Share our post so maybe your friends will want to log on and see what we're up to. Also, visit the photo gallery and video vault on our website, www.highwaysandhilltops.com. Well, I think that's going to do it. Until next week, we hope you get to explore something fun. Bye, friends.